Hello and welcome to the final video lecture of the semester. Continuing on with the tour of my house, I am down in my sports room. Behind me you can see the glasses that I had talked about before. I've got about 200 glasses from all over the world. I collect glasses. But on to today's video lecture. Today's video lecture is all about closing. It's all about asking for the sale. And it's really something because most young sales reps or sales reps that don't have a lot of experience, regardless of whether they're young or old, have a problem asking for the sale. Oftentimes a buyer's not going to just jump out and say, I'll take 20. You've got to ask them for the sale. Oftentimes when you ask them for the sale, that's when the first objection comes out. But that's okay. If you've done a good job of needs analysis, if you've done a good job of problem solving, consultative selling like we've talked about throughout the semester, generally speaking, the closes go very, very well. Once you answer all the objections, again, you ask them again for the order. Most people are afraid to ask for the order, and I'm not exactly sure why. That's what you're there for. The buyer knows that you're there to try to sell them something, so asking for the order is only natural. People, however, do feel uncomfortable about it. So we're going to talk about some strategies and things about closing the sales at the end of the video lecture. Please give me a half a page for each of the questions and turn those into me Monday, our last class. Until then, I will see you Monday. Cheers. So as I mentioned in the introduction, this is all about adapting the close and confirming the partnership. Again, one of the problems that people have is asking for the order. So we're going to talk about some strategies and some ways to do that that might make it a little bit less scary for people, I guess you could say. So again, we've kind of talked through the whole selling concept from the approach, establishing rapport, into the needs discovery. Again, we use spin selling for that. Don't forget to turn in your spin selling script to me on Monday. We talked about the presentation skills and negotiation last night when we talked. And then finally, we're going to talk about close, and then the next couple of chapters will be servicing the sale. So it's kind of the six or five-step process on moving through the sales development process. Closing the sale is always easier if you've discovered needs, you've solved those needs, or you've shown the benefit of your products that will help solve those needs or those problems. When it comes to that, closing is much, much easier. But even when that happens, even when you've solved the customer's problems, even when you've shown them that your product can solve their needs, sometimes they still are hesitant to buy. You still have to close the sale. They still have maybe some objections. Let me think about it. I haven't seen your competition yet. I have 3 more meetings that I have to go through before I can make a decision. I have to ask my boss. All those types of things are objections that come between the close and actually making the sale. Usually when you ask for the order, can I place an order for you today? Or can I place a trial order for you today? Or however you want to ask for the order. And generally speaking, people have different styles of doing it. But whenever you ask for the order, that's usually when the objections come out. You've got to plan for those objections. You've got to understand what those objections are. When you're a experienced salesperson, you've heard all the objections, like, let me think about it. Your price is too high. Whatever it is. In this particular case, though, that's when you summarize what you've done. You summarize how your product or your service or whatever you're selling is a consultative approach and can help solve their needs, and then close again. Or if they say, I need time to think about it, sometimes they really do. So give them a day. Give them a couple of days, but make sure that you follow up. So if your proposal will provide a solution that solves the customer's problems or solve the needs, if it's strong enough to win over, you shouldn't have any problem with closing. However, again, you have to ask for the sale.
Can I place an order? However you want to do it is fine, but you have to ask for the sale. Buyer's remorse often is emotional stress for saying I made the wrong decision or what have you. That's why oftentimes after you close the sale, after you place the order, following up in a couple of days to reaffirm the benefits of your product, to reaffirm how your product has solved the prospect's needs, to reaffirm what's going on with your product and the customer's problems and their needs, oftentimes will help with that buyer's remorse. Sometimes buyer's remorse might happen and you can show them how other customers that are similar to them have purchased. Sometimes that's a way of getting around buyer's remorse. And the other thing about getting around buyer's remorse is the fact that most companies have a 30-day return policy. So if you don't like it, if you find that it's not something that you want, you can always send it back within 30 days. That helps people with buyer's remorse. So buyer's remorse, typically the anxiety is from loss of options, fear of making a mistake, or social or peer pressure. I've shown you 3 ways: following up and servicing the sale, showing people how other customers like them have bought it, and also giving them a 30-day money-back return policy or what have you, guarantee. Oftentimes helps with that buyer's remorse, and it helps with customers not to get buyer's remorse. So if you don't ask for the sale, the close, you're not going to get it. You don't close sales, you build commitment to a course of action, but you still have to ask for the order. Any way you're looking at it, and Tom Riley, that's great, value-added selling, etc. You're not closing a sale, you're opening a window and all those types of things. But let's face it, folks, no one's going to ask for the order except for you. Yes, you are building relationships. You are building a customer. You are building a lifelong relationship and prospect and things like that, but you still have to ask for the order. And it amazes me how, again, and I've said this before, I've said this in class, it amazes me how inexperienced salespeople will continue to probe and present and question and do all the right things except for saying, hey, do you want to buy this? Oftentimes, it's just asking for the order and getting the order. So guidelines for closing the sale, according to your book. The dominant buying motives focus on the process, focus on the servicing the needs, negotiate the tough points, anticipate objections, anticipate that there's going to be negotiation, always play win-win. Think about what's in it for you, what's in it for the buyer. So when you do close the sale, that objection comes out, you've anticipated, you can see the buyer's points, you can see your points, you can see all the points. You can make sure that you solve or handle any objections they have and then reclose. Avoid any surprises at the close, such as, well, now we're going to have to charge you shipping or something like that. Make sure you get all of that out into the presentation, because if you don't and the surprise is at the end, that's going to help or prevent the sale from happening. Display a good degree of confidence. Make the buyer feel that they're making the right decision. Express confidence in your product. Express confidence in your company. Express confidence in all of that. And then, again, you're going to have to ask for the order more than once. You can't just ask for the order and oftentimes a buyer will roll over. That just doesn't work. Oftentimes you have to ask for the order more than once. You have to trial close. You have to handle objections. You got to ask for the order again. So recognizing closing cues, nonverbal cues when you get a lot of nods, body languages, facial expressions, those types of things would be a good time to close. When someone says, hey, that sounds good, or they're giving you any kind of recognition or what have you, those would be good times for trial closes or to close. A trial closes might be, hey, what do you think? If the person says sounds good, then you would, of course, say, well, then can I place an order? Oftentimes, as we've talked about with the presentation skills, you're going to be asking for feedback throughout the entire presentation. Do you understand? Can you see how this would be helpful? All those types of things during your presentation. So you're starting to get those verbal and nonverbal cues that will help you with the close. The key thing is, again, to close often, close more than once, look for closing clues, etc. Methods, trial closing, how does that sound to you? The direct appeal close, assumptive close. So it sounds like you're going to be placing an order, those types of things. Summary of benefits close. I always summarize benefit, especially when you've got an objection due to a drawback, or even if you've got an objection due to a misunderstanding. You're going to summarize the benefits. Also, as I said yesterday during the presentation, make sure you're summarizing the benefits that relate to the prospect or the buyer's needs. All of these methods for closing the sale are in your book. Please make sure that you read about those and you get familiar with those. But to tell you the truth, folks, there's nothing like just asking, can I place an order? That is probably the easiest way. It's the way I've always used. And oftentimes, you'll either get a yes or you'll get a no. And if you get a no, there's a reason. Either there's an objection you haven't handled or there's a problem that you haven't done. But by asking if you can place the order, that opens up and uncovers either other needs or objections. And that's what you have to do. So, again, this is the closing worksheet. I would take this with a grain of salt. Every sale is going to be different. The key here, and the reason that I like to show these, it's the same reason why I showed the worksheet on Monday night. The reason I like to show these is because it shows that we are prepared. Go over in your mind how you're going to close. What are the words you're going to say to close so that you're prepared going into them. Remember the other night I said, make a list of all the different objections. Make a list of all the reasons why the person wouldn't buy. Make sure you've got an answer to those. It's the same thing with the closing worksheet. Make sure you understand what you're going to say to close the sale, how big of an order you're going to ask for. Are you going to ask for a 1-month supply, a 3-month supply? Are you going to ask for 1? Are you going to ask for 2? Are you going to ask for a trial order? What are you going to ask for? Make sure you understand that going into the sale. The more you're prepared going in for the sale, the more you're going to feel better about the sale, the more you're going to feel better about closing the sale. The same thing I talked about when you are selling yourself or interviewing. You ask, what are your needs? You show them, and then you close. Can you see how I've satisfied all those needs? Can you see how I could be the right candidate for this job? So however you want to close is fine. I show this trial closing worksheet because oftentimes it's important to understand that and to be prepared. A trial close is a closing attempt that's made in an opportune time. Trial closes are things like, have I shown you? Can you see the benefits? Have I shown you how this will meet your needs? Those types of things are trial closing. Are you ready to place an order? Are you the one that places the order? Can I write up an order? These types of things are often closes. Trial close, as far as the book goes, are often in confirmation questions. Have I shown you? Can you see the benefits? Have I shown you? Those types of things. Direct appeal close. A direct appeal close involves simply asking for the order. That's my favorite way of doing it. Many buyers find it attractive. Oftentimes, again, it'll help uncover other needs that you have not uncovered yet. The assumptive close asks for minor decisions, assuming that the customer has already decided to buy. Would you like this on Thursday? Would you like the order to be shipped on Thursday? Or would you like it next Monday? That's an assumptive close. It's a take it for granted close, things like that. I don't necessarily like that because sometimes the buyer finds that more arrogant. I like to just ask for the order, not assume that they've already placed the order or assume they're going to place the order. Some people like that type of close, like, well, would you rather have it in red or blue? Those types of things. That's an assumptive close. I don't necessarily like those. However, if you're comfortable with it, if it's worked for you, if it works in your particular industry, go for it. I think it's a great way to do it. Steps for using multiple options close. Configure more than one product solution. Would you like this one, or this one? Sometimes you only have one solution, so this close doesn't work. Multiple options close. You can package different types of things. You can package this product with this service at this price, this product with this service at this price, this product with this service at this price. Generally speaking, you see that a lot done in insurance, where they'll bundle different insurance packages, etc. You'll see it also with gym memberships and those types of things. It gives the prospect more options, and oftentimes when the prospect has more options, it's easier to close. A balance sheet close, I call it a Ben Franklin. What are the pros and what are the cons? Some people call it the pros and cons. Some people call it the balance sheet worksheet. Here's why I've talked about, here's all the benefits of buying. Can you tell me why you wouldn't want to buy? And they would write that down, and you would say, now as you can see, the reasons for buying outweighs the other buying, the not buying. That is kind of like a 50s or a 60s salesperson's technique. I don't really, 1950s, 1960s. I don't particularly like that a lot, but other people feel that they're comfortable with it, and they use a trial or a balance sheet close. So there's other types of closes out there as well. The summary of the benefits close and special concessions close. I don't necessarily like the special concessions close. That's kind of like, if I would give you this, would you buy? If I could give you better terms, when would you buy? Those types of things. Impending event close is kind of like you see on the Shoppers Network, Home Shopping Network. There's only 30 seconds left. Go ahead and buy now. I don't particularly like that type of close either. Again, you know, throughout this whole lecture, the theme is you got to ask for the order. There's nothing wrong with saying, do you want to buy? There's combination closes and different things like that. However, not a big fan of all of these. Really just a big fan of summarizing. I've shown you. I can solve your needs. It's a consultative type of selling approach. Ask for the order. So we talked a few chapters ago about the communication style and a prospect's communication style. The 4 styles: supportive, emotive, reflective, and directive. If you want to go back and look at those things that we talked about in the previous chapter, the book says that you can adapt your style or your closing technique based on the style of the customer or the buyer. And sometimes that works. Sometimes a very direct approach might work. Sometimes you need to soft sell it a little bit more. Sometimes a summary, etc. But with that being said, the book is trying to say, we've given you a whole lot of different ways and styles of closing, etc., etc. Use the one that best fits the communication style of the buyer. My suggestion to you, and certainly is true, you want to make sure that you're adapting to the buyer and to the buyer's needs. But my suggestion to you is do what's comfortable for you. If you can summarize and get an agreement and nods during your summary, then I think that you're in good shape. So when the buyer says yes, congratulations, you close the sale. It's great. Reassure the buyer. Make sure that there's no buyer's remorse. I like to follow up with the buyer a couple of days later to make sure that everything's okay. Some people like to be there when they take delivery of the product. That's often helpful, especially if it's a big ticket item. Confirming the sale, those types of things. Certainly thanking the customer. And the other thing that I used to do when I was in sales and I closed a sale, generally speaking, the buyer is happy, you're happy, they've made a good decision, you reassure them that they've given a good decision. I've often asked, is there somebody else that might need my product? Is there somebody else I can call on? Or may I use you as a reference? So when you've got a happy customer, that's the time to ask for reference. That's also time to ask if there's anybody else that might need your services, etc., etc. When the buyer says no, again, oftentimes the buyers do say no and you're not going to make that sale. A successful salesperson, even the most successful salesperson, doesn't get a yes all the time. Make sure the deal is really dead. If it's really dead, walk away. Review the chain of events, see what went wrong. Ask the client, why didn't I get the sale? What was it about? Was it about my presentation, product, what have you? Getting feedback from the client when you don't make the sale is as important as making the sale, because then you can take a look at, what do I do next? How can I get better? The other thing is, when a buyer says no, sometimes they say no for a specific reason, etc. Based on what they're saying, you also might want to ask them for anybody else that needs their product. So here's 5 review questions. Don't answer all 5. Please answer 4 out of the 5. As always, give me half a page or 2 pages total. Half a page per question, 2 pages total. Answer 4 out of 5 and turn them into me on Monday along with your script. So with that, this was your last video lecture. We're going to wrap it up right now, and I will see you later.